Hey guys, and welcome back to Regrexit. Brexit England, Northern Ireland, and Eastern Europe. And in Brexit England, we have had a terrorist attack. Oh well, hold on. The newspapers and the authorities are not calling it a terrorist attack, but we've had a terrorist attack at a migrant centre in Dover, where a man is believed to have launched three Molotov cocktails at the it's a process. It's like a processing center, but you have to think. Well, why has all of this shit come about? This shit has come about because all of the bad press that these places have been getting. Right now, this fella done the decent thing, and because he was on a suicide mission, so he went and he committed Harry Carey shortly after he had thrown these petrol bombs at this facility, which they're not calling a terrorist attack, even though it's called a petrol bomb for a reason, and it's been thrown at a facility where people are at. So he's obviously happy to try and burn these people alive. But as I said, you just have to wonder where all of this hate has come from. All of this hate has come from, like your people like your Nigel Farage, who is constantly winding up the idiots in this country, and they fall for it. It's not even like they fall for it. I think that they welcome that type of talk. I mean, you've got like Corella de Braverman, and this is a woman that I didn't think that we'll be speaking about again. I thought, what, once she resigned, what was about 10 days ago, I thought that's it. We'll see the last of her. We're going to see her no more. And then all of a sudden, this woman's back, right? But she, as Home Secretary, right, was warned about the overcrowding in one of these facilities that's designed to hold, I think it's designed to hold something like 1,600 people, and on the weekend there was over 4,000 in there, right? So she was advised that there's overcrowding going on, and they have allowed this situation to get to where it is, and trust me, they've done that on purpose. All of this, right, every piece of it has been done on purpose, right, because they thought to themselves, what, we know that if we can keep the people who we need wound up, if we can keep them wound up, because there's thousands of job vacancies in this country. So far, I've had 40,000 people come across on these little boats, right? And there's thousands of job vacancies, right? Which they should, right? While they're processing these people, get them into the hospitality, get them, get them, if they want to go and pick the fruit and the vegetables, get them doing all these things, right? Rather than just sticking them there, giving them 40, I think about 41 or 42 pounds a week, or whatever it is, right? And then allowing the British public to get wound up about it, because you've got people like Nigel Farage saying, "Oh well, these people are staying in 5-star hotels," and none of that's true. I mean, people in this country still follow people like Nigel Farage, even though they can clearly see now, right? Brexit has destroyed this country, right? Our borders was never like that before. Right, in fact, Dover, right, our Dover used to be in Calais. It's not no more. Why? Because we decided, what, we don't want to be with them with them European arseholes, right? We are better off by ourselves, right? And now it turns round, right, that we have to build new centres, right, to house the migrants that are coming over, because while we was in the Dublin Agreement, right, we could have literally sent people back to France, or to whichever European country they had registered in first of all. We could have sent them straight back there. But no, we decided no. We'll be better off leaving all these institutions, right? And you had people shouting out loud from the sides, listen, it is going to make things worse. The worst thing you can do, right, is leave the EU, right, when we're so reliant on the French. I mean, the French have got all those people saying, well, you know what, we want to get to Britain. And then they're in France, and the French say, well, it's a problem for us, but those people want to get to Britain, so, okay, let them go. But, when we was in the EU, we had much more control. Talk about taking back control. Right? We really have taken back control. We've taken back control of goddamn nothing. That's what we've taken back control of, right? You know, but as I said, right, now we have people who are prepared to go on a suicide mission. One of the worst things, it's one of the worst as well. You know what I mean? People who go on a suicide mission, do you know what I mean? Because you can't really fight against that. How are you going to fight against that? Someone who's prepared to go and kill themselves in the in the process of a crime, or just after they've done the crime, to go and kill themselves. It's very difficult to fight against that type of thing. So and then I saw something in the Daily Mail this morning that was speaking about this firebombing, right? But then they went on to say, and because of this has happened because of the amount of people who are coming here on small boats, justifying the actions. That's what the Daily Mail done today. They started speaking about it, but then they started to justify the actions. It's like saying, well, Your Honour, yeah, he did rob the bank, but he done it because he wanted to buy a house and a Porsche. Is that a good defence? I mean, is that a good defence? I mean, it's like, you've got people in this country, right, who are actively on places like social media, right, defending this terrorist. Actively defending this terrorist. Right? Now, I hear so much times, right, how these people just, oh, well, why don't these Muslims condemn, like, when a Muslim commits a terrorist act, why don't they all condemn it? It's like asking every, when we had problems with the IRA, it's like asking every single Irish person to condemn what the IRA have done. I say, well, I'm actually from the Republic. Or they might say, well, or there might be a person say, well, I'm actually from the British side of Belfast, so why should I apologise for what the IRA are doing? Or should we just ask all white people to apologise for what the IRA are doing? Do you know what I mean? It's just crazy. But we have in this country newspapers and people on social media, right, saying, well, this is the reason why it's happened, because there's too much of them. But back to the 1970s. I thought that Jeremy Corbyn was supposed to take us here. And welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages sent me. A special thanks to everybody who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that signed up. So thank you so much for that. I'll go through all your messages. I'll answer as many as I can. But I will like all the messages for definite. So, over the weekend, we've had Nancy Pelosi's 82-year-old husband attacked by a man in his own home, and he was beaten in his head with a hammer. I believe he's had surgery over the weekend, but this comes amid all of the the Republican base in America have really been ramping up the violence, calling people paedophiles, right? Because that's what they do. They say, oh, the Democrats, they're paedophiles. People like Tom Hanks and and Hillary Clinton, right? And keeping kids underneath a pizza restaurant, in a paedophile ring. And you're telling this to some people who are unhinged, who have access to guns and shit like that. So I mean, it could have been a lot worse for Mr. Pelosi. But so you have to look at but what gets me right is on the weekend I've heard people saying, oh well, if you look at what happened with the riots over Black Lives Matter, I can tell you, right, a lot of that was there was a lot of right wing agitators, right, who got into the crowd and started smashing windows and that. Right, during Antifa and Black Lives Matter. That's what you'll find. That's what you'll find. It is because you got to remember, yeah, as black people, we already know, right, that the police are going to deal with us different, right, to how they will deal with a load of white guys walking down the road with holding torches, saying the Jews or the blacks or whoever will not replace us. Right, they'll get dealt with a lot different. Right, they will have, black, when you have Black Lives Matter, the police are there immediately in riot gear straight away. When you have Antifa, the police are there in riot gear straight away. right? You know, when you have people like, you know, Kyle Rittenhouse, right, who can turn up, right, with guns, with rifles, right, with machine guns, right, kill people, and then basically walk away from that, right? And then you have people who got money together to get him out of prison, right? After he's gone somewhere where there's a demonstration, right? And he's decided he's gone with a gun and he's killed people. Right, so when you have all this type of thing going on, it's no wonder that you've got people out there who are so unhinged that they will go and beat an 82-year-old man in the head with a hammer. But I just look at all of those people. I look at every single one of them now, right? You know, the Republicans, and I say, well, because you do understand, yeah, that is what you're voting for. You're voting because you agree, right, that someone should go and beat 82-year-olds in the head with a hammer. Because, you know, that's, you know, if you're voting for the Republicans, because believe me, this guy was MAGA all the way. You know, one of his main influence was, like, you know, the My Pillow guy, you know, Mike Lindell. That's one of his main influences. Right, you know, and what's his thing? His thing's about the stolen election. And, you know, when you looked at January 6th, you know, remember they was walking through the halls saying Nancy, Nancy, right? This guy went to Nancy Pelosi's house, calling out for Nancy, saying he's gonna tie up the, you know. Luckily, Mr. Pelosi managed to somehow call 911. Right, when the police got there, they found the two of them fighting for the hammer. Right, so. You know, so as I said, yeah, anybody who's still in support of these things, then, you know, you just know that you're in support of people who think it's okay to go and beat 82-year-olds in the head with a hammer. Just think of one of your relatives at 82 years old, or yourself at 82 years old, being attacked by somebody with a hammer. Right, because that's where you are. At least we know to ourselves, you know something, yeah? If it's a fucking burglar, right, at least we know they're going in there because they're a damn thief, right? And you know, and that's why they're doing it. These people are doing it, right? These people are doing these things because they're being told by Donald Trump that an election's been stolen, and that's why they're doing it. Right. You know, you got people like Marjorie Taylor Greene up on stage talking about, you know, lock and load, they're paedophiles. You know, remember, around the world, right, it's okay to murder paedophiles. That's how the world looks at this shit. It's okay to do that. Paedophile gets murdered, who gives a fuck? No one cares. Paedophile gets murdered, no one cares. Okay, so that's the reason why they're doing these things. That's the, you know, and then they've got the cheek to say, oh, well, what about like that politician, Maxine Walters, I think her name is something like that, right? But she said, oh, you know what? Wherever you see these Republicans, you should go and get in their face. Yes, you know, the senators and the Congress persons, you should go and get in their face, right? Let them know they're not welcome in local restaurants and all them type of things. And they're trying to say, oh, well, you know, that's the same as politicians calling people paedophiles, so saying how it's a war, you know, doing adverts where they're locking and loading guns, doing adverts where they're basically killing people like Nancy Pelosi or Joe Biden. Those are the type of adverts, right, that the Republicans are putting on. Right? And then they've got the cheek to say, oh, well, you know, what about them? You know, Black Lives Matter, you know, Antifa. So really, they're just violent. They're just violent thugs. And let's move over to Brazil, because Bolsonaro looks like he's lost power to Lulu da Silva, and he must be pissed, right, being beaten by a man named Lulu. Right? But Lulu da Silva, I mean, he was in prison in the last election, I think it must be 2018. But he was in prison. I mean, he had been locked up, right? But he is more from the left wing. Do you know what I mean? So he's going to be stopping like all the cutting down of the rainforest and all them type of things. So let's wish him well, because, you know, there is a whole heap of poverty in Brazil, loads of poverty out there. Apparently, China have secret police stations all over the world. There's believed to be some even in the UK. Right, apparently with their secret police stations. Unbelievable, isn't it, really? Do you know what I mean? You always talk about how the Chinese are getting up to a lot of stuff. And the Russians have accused Britain of blowing up Nord Stream 2. the pipeline, right? And you know something, yeah? I would have just said, you know something, that's a load of bollocks. Until, right, I heard one of our admirals, one of our admirals come on and say, "Oh, well, we don't even have the capability of blowing up Nord Stream 2. It's encased in concrete." What? So you're telling me that Britain hasn't got any? Shut up, right? You know, don't lie. Don't come on and just lie. We all know, right, that Britain will have the capability of blowing that shit up. Come on, be serious. Do you know what I mean? But these guys are, oh, we haven't got the capability. Really? Do you know what I mean? So, well, because it's encased in concrete, you haven't got. Seriously, do you know, well, listen, you know what? That makes me suspicious because he come and said that. That makes me really suspicious because he said that, and I thought, oh, there's no reason for him to really say that. I don't know if you've seen this story. A bridge in India, Gujarat, has collapsed, killing over 140 people. You know, this bridge was designed. I think it was designed to take under 150 people. I think under 150 people, but there was close on 400 to 500 on there, right? Because obviously it's the Diwali celebrations, isn't it? So, and it's collapsed, and it's just killed a load of people. We've also had a terrorist attack in Somalia of 100 people murdered in that one as well. Do you know what I mean? So, we've got terrorist attacks, in Dover, Somalia. Right. And then we move over to South Korea, where we've had a stampede where 154 people have died at this stampede. Celebrations must be I think it's Halloween celebrations, I think. And we've got 33 people who are seriously injured. So look at that, the death toll, right, is much higher than the injury toll, and a lot of these are believed to have been like young ladies in their 20s, because obviously, when you're in a stampede situation, the strongest will survive. That's the whole point of a stampede. And then we've got two men been murdered in a drive-by shooting in Brixton. I don't know if you've seen that story. We had two people murdered in a house in Ilford last week as well, in a shooting as well. So we've got a lot more gun violence coming over here. I think it's like Railton Road, which is another very famous road in Brixton, because we've got two very famous roads in Brixton. One is Railton Road, and the other one is Electric Avenue, made famous by who? Eddie Grant. Exactly. Yeah, so we've had a massive shooting down there, so I think all of that will be blocked up down there. But this was a drive-by shooting, so let's just hope we don't have a lot more of them starting, because they kill people indiscriminately when they do that shit. Just Stop Oil protesters are being attacked by members of the public who are getting pissed and not wanting to be bothered by these people, by these protesters. But I say, what, these people have the right to protest, and if unfortunately you get caught up in one of their protests, that's just unfortunate. I was caught up in one not Monday before. I was caught up in one where they over on Dartford, the Dartford crossing. So shit does happen. I didn't. I wasn't going to start jumping out of my car and even though there wasn't anywhere close to me, and I would have had to have got up quite high to get to where these protesters are, right, to tell them that you're being very, very naughty fellows. I think they're still in prison. I'm not sure, but I think those guys are still in prison. Homelessness is rising in Great Britain. Is there any surprise? I mean, cost of living is getting out of control. So it's no surprise that in this country the cost of living is just and now we've got homelessness increasing at the most rapid rate it's increased at. Right? I mean, when we've got food banks, more food banks than the KFC. Probably double the amount of food banks as we've got KFCs, to be honest, because But when we're at that type of level of food banks, then it's no wonder that homelessness is going to keep rising. And I mean, people have just had an extra average of £500 put onto their mortgages as well. So so if you've got landlords who have got mortgages, right, now they've got to put that onto the tenant. If the tenant can't afford that, now then what's going to happen? you know. And then, if there's a lot of people who they're saying, well, that person's made themselves intentionally homeless, so they won't even house you in that type of situation. Boris Johnson said he may attend COP27. So Rishi Sunak has said, on second thoughts, I might attend COP27 myself. And for some reason, they're still blocking Prince Charles from, because I suppose it's something to do. They don't want Prince Charles to go and embarrass the government over the whole eco business. Because obviously, that Rishi Sunak wasn't really taking it that as serious as people think that he should be, and that could have something to do with him getting £550,000, right, from the fossil fuel industry, right, to fight his election campaign. See, what really gets me, right, is because I've been hearing so much people come on the radio and say, well, you can't corrupt him because he's so rich. Say, these people are really stupid, aren't they? These people are so stupid, right, that they believe, right, because someone's rich, they can't be corrupted. I say, what world do you people live in? What world do you seriously live in if you think, right, that the seriously rich can't, when you have when you have these really big robberies like Brinks-Matt, or when you have or the when they've done the safety deposit boxes in Hatton Gardens, right? All of those people are well-to-do people. These are not people who are poor, right, who are going out there and doing these type of things, right? These are people who have got money already, right? Because you need to have money to do these type of things. You can't just say, just go onto the streets of Hackney, grab a group of lads, right, and then go and rob Brinks-Matt. That's never going to happen. You couldn't do that, right? Whoever, there's a lot of planning that has to go into these things, right? Because, you would have to pay people off in the first place, right? So, so that's what makes it. That's what makes these things expensive, right? Then you need, you need vehicles as well, right? And all these type of things. You need tools, right? And all these type of things, right? So, to think that these people are incorruptible, right? It's completely ridiculous, right? And so much people I've heard saying that because he's got £700 million in the bank, you can't corrupt him. Really? So I go back to the £550,000 that he took from the fossil fuel industry, and then when it come to COP27, he's like, I'm not going. Pointless. Right? It's just a group of people meeting. That's how Therese Coffey explained it. And I believe this is Brexit, and a new British standard, right, as opposed to the European standards. So we're going to have a new British standards, like a kite mark type thing, I suppose. Right, like how they've got the European kite mark, but now we want to have our own British one. So, well, you can have your own British one as much as you want, but one thing's for certain, you will follow whatever rules the EU ask you to follow. Those are the rules you'll follow, right? Or otherwise, right, you could take your new British standard, right, and sell it elsewhere because it won't be sold in the EU. That's a fact. And now, British companies, because, this new British standard, right, it's only going to be relevant in this country. And you say, well, what's the point in that? Because now, I don't know what the point in it, because they are basically going to be asking people to make two sets of stuff, one for the EU market and one for the UK market. Right? It's kind of crazy. This whole Brexit thing, right, has destroyed this country. And we have to say, well, why is that? It's because you people are racist, and you people, right, who are not racist or claim not to be, but voted Brexit, are stupid. That's the only thing. That's the only two things it can be. Right? Either you're stupid or you're a damn racist idiot, right, for putting this country through this bullshit. The Brexit deal needs to be revised, revisited, says the head of the British Chamber of Commerce, and he would know because Chamber of Commerce, yeah. So he would definitely, or she, could be a woman, right? Let's just go with they, right? But they would certainly know, all right, that the deal needs to be redone. Something needs to be done about it because Britain, right, is being crushed all of the time. But rejoining the EU has taken a 14-point lead in the polls, and these people don't realise that all of those countries would have to agree for Britain to go back in, and one thing for certain, right? The EU would probably insist that we lose our pound. So I think the only thing we probably could do would be it'd probably be like the single market or the customs union. Right, then that way we could, then that way we're sort of like one foot in, but the other foot out. Right, it's sort of like the hokey cokey. And as Rishi Sunak's new government warns of tough decisions and fears spread of new austerity, John Harris and John Damakos report from Grimsby, the former fishing town that voted overwhelmingly for Brexit, and they returned their first Tory MP in 75 years. Now, businesses are failing, and hopes and fears outside the EU have crumbled. So that's what's happened to Grimsby. As I say, it's grim and Grimsby, but it used to be a fishing town. They've got their first Tory MP for 75 years, but the whole town is failing because of the support what they used to get from the EU. Obviously the fishing industry up there must have just over the last 6 years must have just been completely destroyed because, as I said, it was a fishing town, but now it's no longer a fishing town. Apparently, I suppose there must be just small amounts of that going on up there. But Grimsby virtually destroyed itself by voting for Brexit. And let that be a lesson to every single one of you Brexiters. When you think, right, of what you've done, think of Grimsby. Anyway, guys, look, I've gone 7 minutes over. I didn't really want to do it today, but I have. And it's Monday. So I haven't got no excuse for it. Anyway, look, I'm going to bow out of here, my friends. This is By Any Means Necessary. I'm the MC John Ribbs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.